No, Mr. Smith, when we're on.
You're good to go.
Good evening, everybody, fellow trustee members, administration, and anybody listening. We are ready to adjourn the Jefferson Elementary School District Board meeting for January 13th, 2021 at 7:02 p.m. Welcome, everybody. Can I have Ms. Coveride, please roll call members present tonight?
Clayton Koo.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here.
Andrea Jordan.
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai is absent. And Maybell Manio.
Here. Thank you. And could Trustee Koo, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure.
Great, thank you.
Everyone, please put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and to the republic
and to the republic
for which we stand, one
which
nation,
stands, one
under
nation,
God,
under God, indivisible,
liberty and justice
liberty, justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you, appreciate that. Great. I would like to ask that our board members review the governance team meeting guidelines at this time. If nobody needs any more time for that, we can move on to the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Can we get are we still doing the thumbs up thing for aye? You still want to do that?
Yeah, somehow a way that's easy to signify that there's a yes vote, so either a thumbs up or people can use their reaction buttons as well.
Okay, is that okay with you, Trustee Brizuela?
Yeah, but can you see me to
No,
do it?
we can't see you, Mrs. Brizuela, so you'll just have to speak loudly and clearly so we know that you voted yes or no.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be better. I mean, if we all do it the same way.
Yes. We'll just hear you.
I mean, well, I'd like to hear everybody else, but that's all right.
Yeah, usually people speak it, but they also signify visually so that the president can see as well. Because
that's all right. But
yeah,
but I'd like to be able to hear it too.
Yeah, people vote vocally as well.
If there's a question, I'll ask for clarification, but if we could do a thumbs up for aye, that would be great. So all those in favor with the motion and a second to approve the agenda this evening, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous. So we'll move on to 6B, board member acknowledgements and commendations. Trustee Brizuela, would you like to go first?
Okay. There's not a lot to be able to say with all this staying at home and not seeing things, but I just want to thank everyone, and especially Superintendent, for all the work you guys are doing to letting us know what's happening and all the data that you sent to us. And I hope that we will be able to get everybody back into place, and we're just not sure when that will be. But we're there if there's anything you need to ask for our support. That's really all I can say at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Brizuela. I'll have you go in next, Trustee Koo.
Cool. I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. I know there hasn't been much happening going on, but just hope everybody had a great start to New Year. Hope everybody enjoyed the holidays, and look forward to seeing everybody in school soon when everything's all back to normal.
Thank you. And of course, last but not least, Ms. Trustee Jordan.
I actually echo everyone's sentiments here. Happy New Year, and we're looking forward to definitely seeing everyone in person. I think for me, all of this has been very virtual for me, so I'm looking forward to being able to come out safely and do things in person very soon once we're able to.
I'd also like to share the same sentiment as the rest of the board, and that I hope that everyone had a safe and wonderful holiday season and people were able to spend it with their loved ones and get some well-deserved rest from everything that's happening. And I wish everybody a great and successful 2021. And I agree, I look forward to seeing you all in person sooner than later. And, there's been a lot of work that's been happening behind the scenes with different offices, County of Eds, different other elected officials, and it's all a lot of hands on deck that I've seen. So I commend a lot of the teachers and staff for their support and their continuing hard work, as well as the administrators. With that being said, could we have your comments, please, Superintendent Vidales?
Yes, of course. So understandably, staff at all different levels are just very concerned with the happenings at the nationwide level, and are seeking ways to support and comfort many of our students and families who they themselves may have flown, fled countries where there was political unrest. And so I maintain, as I mentioned to our staff, I maintain confidence that I believe our democracy will withstand, but it will be turbulent potentially. And so this next week especially. So we are preparing for different ways of supporting our students and helping everybody understand the way things should be and the way things are working out. So hopefully things will work out well. Some very exciting news since the last meeting that we had. We've have 2 new safe and effective COVID vaccines that have been released and are now being utilized and put into people's arms. San Mateo County reports that they're just about finished with phase 1A, which is the medical personnel and individuals residing in the residential facilities. Which means that they're getting ready to move into phase 1B, which is the phase that includes school and district personnel. So we're excited about that possibility. Also, phase 1B includes anybody over the age of 65. So that should be happening soon. And we truly encourage members of our school community who have elderly living with them, especially if they're living with any of our students, that you please get them vaccinated so that they will be prepared and protected when our students do come back to school. We want to make sure that they don't bring something home that will hurt their loved ones. So please spread the word. Have people contact their primary care physician, who at this point, San Mateo County Health has indicated are the ones who will direct their patients to where they can get their vaccine. That should probably be happening here in the next week and a half to 2 weeks as I finish up with the medical personnel.
Great, thank you for all of that information, Superintendent Vidales. If good with the members present, I'd like to move on to 7A, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion. Was that a second?
Yes, we have a second from Mrs. Brizuela.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Sorry about that. Okay.
No, that's okay. It was almost the same time.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 That was unanimous. Great. Moving along, we are going to move forward to 7C, the 2021-2022 school calendar. The administration recommends adoption of the 2021-2022 calendar as presented. This calendar has been determined as part of the district calendar committee process and is in alignment with the Jefferson Union High School district calendar. Any discussion?
I'll make a motion, if there's no other comments, I'll make a motion that we adopt the 2021-2022 academic school calendar as presented.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, great. I have a first and a second. Can I get a voice vote, please? All those in favor say aye.
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 That was unanimous. So, breezing through here, 8C, Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Services, the CCEIS plan. This is informational. JESD has disproportionately identified Hispanic/Latinx students for special ed under specific learning disability. The U.S. Department of Ed has determined that the district must focus on addressing this issue to ensure that this is providing an equitable education to all students and not over-identifying any one subgroup of students for special ed services. The administration will share the district's plan to address this disproportionality. I believe we have Dr. Joyner leading us in this discussion.
Good evening. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you all see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Services Plan, and we call it CSACE. And as Ms. Trustee Manio said, this is a plan that we have to put together based on some data that has around our Hispanic/Latinx students. So I'm going to talk about how we got to this place. So, of course, the goal for all school districts is to provide equitable education for all students. But when the data shows that there are students who are of a specific racial or ethnic group, and they're over-identified in special ed or for discipline, we call that disproportionality. And so under IDEA, the government requires that states identify districts as significantly disproportionate, and the shortened term is SIGDIS. And when those districts are disproportionate for the same group in a specific category for 3 consecutive years, then the school district is identified as significantly disproportionate. And so for us, JESD has disproportionately identified our Hispanic/Latinx students in special ed under the specific learning disability for 3 consecutive years. And so we must put a plan together that will reduce our numbers of students that we're identifying. And so I'm going to show you this data so you can understand how we got here. So in 2016-17, and we're looking just at this middle row for Hispanic, and this is specific learning disability. In 2016-17, the government has a threshold, which is a maximum ratio, which is 3.0. And when a school district's ratio is over 3.0, then they're considered over for that disability. And so in 2016-17, we were at 4.55. So we were over the ratio by 1.55. And then in 17-18, we significantly reduced that number to 3.29, but we were still over the threshold by 0.29. And then in 18-19, we did move back up a little bit to 3.55. So again, we were over at 0.55. So because of these 3 years, the state then identified us as significantly disproportionate. And so that activates us to put together a plan. And this just shows that middle bar a little closer. So in last year, our special ed department, they have been looking at this data and noticed that we were over this threshold consecutive years. And so one of the things that they began to implement was a bilingual testing referral flowchart, which really is best practice for referring and assessing English language learners. Our Hispanic Latinx students, we find the majority of them are English language learners when it comes to our special ed students under a specific learning disability. And so they wanted to put this referral process together so that they could begin to assess students in a more equitable manner. And so they put this assessment together and began to use it in the fall of 2019. But they only had 6 months to implement it due to COVID-19. And so this has impeded some of the data collection. But I am happy to report, as I was putting this, the presentation together, I did get our last year's information around our data. And so in 2019-20, we did go down. We are now at 3.06, which means 3.06 over the threshold. So the work that the special ed department began to implement is showing that it is working with our students. And the more that we're able to implement some of these processes that the special ed department has implemented, this will help to reduce the number of students that we are assessing and reduce the number of students who qualify for a specific learning disability. But we are still in SIGDIS, and so we have to put together a plan. So one of the things the state does is gives us a process that we have to follow with the end goal of writing this plan. So the first thing we had to do was to develop a leadership team. And on that team is myself, the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Brent Valenti, our Director of Special Ed, Dr. James Adams, our Director of Finance, Michael Laro, and our Director of Curriculum Instruction, Jessica Pace. So our leadership team has been meeting and working together to put together this plan. A few things that we have to do as part of the process. We had to hire a technical assistance person from the state, and we ended up bringing on 2. They help facilitate this process from beginning to end and writing the plan. And so with the help of our consultants, we had to do some focus groups. So we did some focus groups last year. We had an administrator focus group, a parent focus group, an EL teacher focus group, psychologists, and speech and language therapists focus group. And from those focus groups, and we also have a stakeholder group. And so we have a good number of parents on the stakeholder, and we've met 3 times thus far in this process. And in the stakeholder group, they give us feedback towards what we've identified in our focus groups. So from our focus groups, we identified 4 root causes as to why we are probably over-identifying students. And those root causes were inconsistency of district-wide multi-tiered system of support for English language learners, a lack of meaningful family engagement, implicit bias and lack of cultural responsiveness, and gaps in curriculum instruction to support English language learners. So based on these 4 root causes, we then had to put together a plan to address each one of these root causes. Excuse me. So here is how we are responding. So as part of this process, we do have to work with students, and it's not working with all of our EL students or all of our Hispanic and Latinx students in the district. We have to put together a cohort of students. And they didn't give a specific number, but they were like 200 could be too many based on the size of our district. So we looked at data first of students, and we looked at our FastBridge data, our LPAC data, and our CASP data. And the most current CASP data was from 2018-19. And we also looked at our elementary schools that had the largest number of Hispanic Latinx students. And the reason why we're focusing on elementary is because we found that a good number of our referrals are happening in the 3rd and 4th grades. So in order to interrupt that pattern, we are focusing our efforts on the elementary grades. So when we looked at our largest Hispanic Latinx populations, we chose 2 schools, which are JFK and Woodrow Wilson. And from there, we developed our criteria, the criteria that we use to choose the students. So our criteria is based on looking at students in 1st through 5th grade. Their LPAC scores would be a level 1 and 2, and their FastBridge A reading score, they scored at high risk. And so when we teased out that information, we found 113 students that qualify for that. And the state says that the majority of those students must be Hispanic based on, we're over-identifying our Hispanic Latinx. So the majority of the students have to be Hispanic and or Latinx. Not all of the students have to be. And so in our 113, the majority of those students are Hispanic Latinx. So this process is a 2-year process. And we are in the midst of year 1. And so this plan that we put together is for the 2 years. So we have to come out with measurable outcomes for each root cause. So the first measurable outcome is that by September 2022, we will develop culturally responsive tiered intervention supports that include English language development for those students, and to increase 10% in our target students based on their reading level. So what we agreed to do is provide a license from Imagine Learning for each one of those students, for the 113 students. And currently we use Imagine Learning in our district to provide language support for our students who are newcomers. And so this is an online program. So we are going to use this with the cohort of students that we'll be working with. So we'll provide each student with a license. Our second measurable outcome is that the teachers who are going to work with those students, we are going to provide extensive training in Imagine Learning, and also extensive training in how to look at data and use that data to make some decisions throughout the year about their teaching and learning, or how the students are increasing or developing their language. We are going to look at using the PLC model, which is looking at students at their work and then making some determinations and next steps about their learning. Our third measurable outcome is focused on our families. Again, one of the root causes looked at how we engage with our families, specifically our Hispanic Latinx families. And so for this outcome, we are planning to hold quarterly meetings with the families of these students to provide them information regarding data, how we're tracking their students, show them how their students are developing through this program. We are also going to survey the families throughout the 2 years to see how they're feeling about the connection that they have with JESD. We definitely want to improve that connection and make sure our families are feeling connected. So we will survey those families to find out if what we're doing is working and what more can we do. And then our last measurable outcome is to increase the investment of the MTSS process. So we will provide more training for these teachers who are a part of this cohort around the MTSS process. These teachers will also be designing individual learning plans for each one of the students. So they'll use that learning plan to have conversations monthly. We will be meeting with the teachers monthly for a half day or whole day. We haven't decided yet, but conversations around students and the work that's going on. So how are we funding this? The state requires that we reserve 15% of our 2020-2021 IDEA funds to meet the goals of the CSACE plan. And so our total budget for the 27 months is $210,574. And we have outlined that in our budget review. So our next steps for this process, I've met with the principals, and we are having a leadership team meeting this month to discuss the plan and next steps. We are going to meet with the teachers who are teaching these students. We'll communicate with the families of these students and hold a family community meeting. We're going to begin training the teachers on Imagine Learning, and we'll distribute the Imagine Learning licenses to the students. And then we'll have quarterly stakeholder meetings to address our CSACE plan and how students are doing. And we will provide updates to the board probably quarterly. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. We definitely look forward to those updates. Would any of my fellow board members like to discuss or comment?
Yeah, I would. Okay, I need to know, I'm sorry. As I'm speaking, it keeps talking back to me. So, okay. So I wanted to ask are any of the parents not English learners?
Are any of the students or the parents not English?
The parents.
Are the parents? You said, are they not English learners?
Yeah. Do they speak well enough to help the students?
We don't know yet. We have not met with the families yet. We've just identified the students, but we have to go through the list of students just to look and see who they are. And then once we determine that all these students are present, then we will have a meeting with the families.
Because what I'd like to suggest is something that I was involved in years ago, and that was that we would coordinate with, say, the high school districts, where we can get people to teach the adults. So if they can go to the same school and there's a little class going on, they will be able to learn enough more English to help their children. And it's really important because the children are happy about it, and the parents feel like they can sit down with them. So I'd like us to look into that, if that's something that we can do and coordinate it with the high school district.
Yeah, that's something that we do have in place. At least we had it before the pandemic, before March 2019. But at both of these schools, there was a parent English class. And so that would be something that we'd probably, as you suggest, would want to encourage families who are able to join.
And that's one of the activities that we do have planned is parent education and parent support during those family meetings.
But we don't have it ongoing, is that what you're saying?
I don't know how the COVID-19 process has impacted the adult education program that we had at both JFK and Woodrow Wilson and several of our other schools. I'd have to look into it and see. I don't know if they were able to move into a virtual setting like our school day programs have.
Okay. Sometimes they're also handled by the adult school.
Yes, that's where those classes were offered through the Jefferson High School District Adult School.
Yeah. Okay, so make sure we use every tool we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Buswella, would either Trustee Jordan or Trustee Koo have anything to say?
I actually did have a question and a comment. So Dr. Joyner, could you actually, I think you had mentioned that there was some decrease in the numbers recently, and obviously COVID, there's some of the data that we don't have because of what happened with COVID. Could you just repeat the change again for us?
Yes, so we were at 3.29 in 1819, and now in 1920 we are at 3.06. So we are 0.06 over the threshold, and I'm confident that with the work that the special ed department has started, and along with this plan, we will definitely reduce.
Awesome. And then the question that I have with regards to that, obviously with COVID kind of changing a lot of things here, how do we intend to maintain reduction of that number and obviously move forward to being more proactive and less reactive to these situations?
So the goal is to, with the Imagine Learning and the teachers having the ability to sit and meet and discuss, their teaching and the data and making some decisions and determinations on next steps. The goal is that if this does work and does reduce our numbers, that hopefully we can extend this out into other schools with the rest of our students, so that we begin to reduce the number of students who are assessed for special ed that are focused on language. So we have to start the plan and kind of review it, over the months. And if we find that things aren't going in the direction that we believe, then we will make some definite tweaks to it and changes. But we just plow right in and get to work on it.
Thank you. I appreciate the response.
Yeah. So Ms. Jordan, if I can add a bit to your question, I think, we were identified to produce this plan 3 years of having disproportionate findings. The first couple of years, and as was indicated in that one slide, the special education department did come up with a way of making sure that they had a consistent and objective process of identifying students that took into account language differences, so that there wasn't an over-identification of students who are English learners. And so that was the first step, and that brought us to a certain level, the 3.06 level. And so because we've had 3 years in a row of disproportionality, then the assumption at the state level is it's not just a special education identification level issue and challenge, it's a general education concern. And so what we're about to embark on now is a way of trying to improve our English language development so that students are better prepared earlier and they don't fall behind, and therefore they don't seem or appear to be eligible for specific special education under a specific learning disability. It's not to say that we do not want to identify Hispanic and Latinx students for that if they truly are, because they deserve the services. We just don't want to misidentify. And when we've had these numbers that are over ratio or disproportionate, it's a signal that we might be identifying students who do not have that disability and shouldn't need to be in the program. So we're trying to get better at that one, by improving our identification process, and two, by improving the instruction students receive in early grades so that they don't fall as far behind.
Well, as bad as it sounds to, inappropriately label a child, it can be seen as discriminatory. I've actually been on the other side of the track where I was labeled as a ESL, at least in the 80s, that's what we called it, when I was 100% bilingual. So I know what it feels like, but I'm glad that our district is being proactive about it and introducing culturally responsive interventions. So, and it's just, allowing time for the ELL to develop as well and promote that adequate opportunity in their, formidable years to learn. So I appreciate the presentation, Dr. Joyner, and all of the information and the work, and we'll look forward to the updates and hopefully keep that track of, decreasing the number and getting to where we need to be. If no other discussion, I'll move on to the next topic. And that is 9B, I believe. Resolution number 21-01-13, State Allocation Board and School Facility Program Beyond Bond Authority Acknowledgement. The administration recommends the board approve the resolution, State Allocation Board and School Facility Program Beyond Bond Authority Acknowledgement. Discussion? Motion?
I'll make a motion that the board approves resolution number 21-01-13, State Allocation Board and School Facility Program Beyond Bond Authority Acknowledgement.
Second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Is unanimous. Good. Okay. Then we will move on to item 12A, Board Policies, Administrative Regulations, October 2020 CSBA Board Policy Revisions, first reading. So the board will review and revise the board policies and administrative regulations from the October 2020 CSBA Board Policy Revisions as stated in the first reading. Superintendent Vidales?
Yeah, so for Mrs. Jordan, and as a reminder to the rest of the board, every 2 to 3 months, CSBA produces updates based on new laws that were passed. And so this represents some of the changes that were made probably in the summer legislative session.
Discussion? Or motion?
Sorry, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 21-01-13, State Allocation Board and School Facility Program.
I think we're on 12A, which is for board policies.
Yes, sorry, board policies, administrative regulations, October 2020 CSBA Board Policy Revisions. So I motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
First and a second. All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
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 Great, that was unanimous. Okay, so looks like we have some reports. Item 14A, Board Study Session, CSBA 2020 Annual Education Conference. So board member
Ms. Mania, we do have item 13A, which is the return to in-person learning plan.
I think we forgot.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped that one. Rewind. Okay, sorry. 13A, we are going to talk about return to in-person learning plan. The administration recommends approval of the return to in-person learning plan, which describes how students will return to in-person instruction and how schools will create conditions to support health and safety. The plan adheres to San Mateo County Office of Ed Pandemic Recovery Framework based on California DPH guidance documents for schools. Students will return to school when local health conditions meet the criteria previously established by the governing board. So again, this is the how, not the when.
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted to underscore that this is the how and not the when. The board in October established the criteria under which our district would be returning to in-person school. We are far from that, given the latest surge in some of the infections and hospitalization rates. But we hope eventually to get back on track to reduce the level of virus in our community so that we can open. I did want to speak a bit because it's been in the news and the airwaves about Governor Newsom's proposal to reopen school. He unveiled a proposal, I believe, a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago. His proposal was to reopen schools by February 1st. When certain health conditions were met. They were far more liberal than the health conditions that our board has adopted. He was looking at 28 cases, 28 new cases per 100,000 a day. Our board's recommendation was down into 1 a day in our county. So big difference there. I did want to say that, while attractive and being able to have $450 more per student who returns to school under this program, we are not eligible simply because we've decided that we will wait until both counties, San Francisco and San Mateo, are in yellow. And the new case rate in Daly City is 30 or fewer. And the last time I looked, which was last Friday, I believe we were at 291 cases in Daly City over the week. So we're pretty far away from that. We do hope and have hopes that that will be able to turn around, given that we're beyond the holidays, that there's a new vaccine. And if we can get our elderly folks or folks over 65, not just elderly, vaccinated and more people vaccinated, that we can stem the tide and be able to return to school this school year. So that was a question that's been coming up a lot, is because the board has adopted a very conservative criteria for returning to school, why do we need to have a plan to return to school, in-person school? It's not going to happen, several people have said. So a couple of reasons. One is we don't know what the governor and the legislature will decide. They both seem very interested in getting schools reopened. It could get to the point where they will decide the criteria under which schools will reopen and override any local decisions by school boards, and they have that authority to do so. So we don't want to be caught behind the wheel on that one. And if they do come out and say you need to reopen when criteria meets this level, and it already has met it, and we need to open in 2 weeks, or it's likely to meet it and we'll be reopening in the next month, we don't want to start this process and complete that. So that's one reason why we want to have a plan. We started this last May. We put it on the back burner as it became clear we were going to start off in distance learning. And as we got distance learning under our belt, we resurrected this plan and started to complete it and fill out all of the areas that were left undone. The other part of this is that, there's a vaccine coming and educators will become eligible for it. My concern is that if we do not have a plan to return to in-school instruction, that our staff may become ineligible to receive the vaccine or get placed at the end of the line to receive the vaccine. And so this plan, while it hasn't been announced that it is a prerequisite, there are lots of considerations that are being put into place to prioritize which educators get vaccinated first, because there's a concern that there's not enough vaccine to vaccinate everybody in the 1B phase early. So this also sets our district up to be eligible for, or to have another thing in completed that demonstrates that we are making progress toward reopening and that our educators, our staff, deserve to be considered as part of a group of individuals who get vaccinated. So those are the two reasons why I think it's good for us to adopt a plan. We may or may not open. We don't know. We're not future tellers, but we do need to be ready to reopen within 2 weeks if the governor and legislature decide. And we do want to place our staff in a good position to be vaccinated when that becomes an option. So with that, I will turn it over. I believe, Mr. Valenti, you're going to start off. You're muted, Mr. Valenti.
Thank you for getting us started with those points. I appreciate it. And tonight, again, we're going to see a few things we presented to you in the past, and they should be more familiar for everybody, which is a good thing. This is a whole new language for all of us. So again, please take note of your questions. I'll be happy to answer anything at the end. Thank you, Ms. Joyner. Next slide, please. From the beginning of this process, we've been looking through an equity lens as we navigate the way to return our students to in-person instruction. As Bernie had mentioned, this started back in May when we started our conversations with staff and family. And now we've been tasked with developing a plan to return our students and staff safely to in-person learning, and looking at ways to bring our most at-risk students and youngest students back first, always prioritizing the health and safety and welfare of our students and staff. All this time too, we're engaging with students on a daily basis, doing live remote instruction, meeting our instructional minute guidelines from the state. And there's been a lot of great engagement going on, and that will continue even as students return to in-person instruction. And of course, with our expectation to provide the students with a rigorous and safe experience. Next slide, please. Just a little background of where we were, that on the October 14th board meeting, it was approved that in-person instruction would not begin in our district any earlier than the 19th of January, which is just around the corner next week. And that health conditions for San Francisco and San Mateo County would be in the minimal or the yellow standard across all metrics. And that in Daly City, we'd have fewer than 30 cases. That's not the case. And so our baseline for reopening, we're going to be passing that by next week. Next slide. We've had numerous presentations to the board, but I wanted to look back at all the opportunities for community members and stakeholders and staff members and families to give input. We had 2 meetings in December and 1 in January with our site-based committees. And those committees are made up of staff, classified and certificated, as well as family members. And there was over 75 folks that attended those meetings. They were really great opportunities to exchange ideas and have people go through the plan. So we feel comfortable people were able to really bite into it and give their input, and we reflected their changes in the plan. On January 7th, we had a community meeting with over 175 stakeholders present, and Dr. Joyner might mention that a little later in the presentation. And after that, we were able to post the plan on our district website with a link for people to give more input after reading it electronically. And so it was a real robust conversation as well as a solid amount of feedback we were able to get and add into the plan. So what ended up, the product was our return to in-person learning plan. And as Dr. Joyner takes the handoff, I include a checklist there, which is it includes all the components that San Mateo County Office of Ed and the San Mateo Public Health Department outlined as the essential criteria of plans in order to get them approved. So I encourage you, as you go through this, to look that over. It's included in the appendix of the plan. So that was our guideline that helped us as a roadmap. Now I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Joyner here midfield.
Thanks, Brent.
Thanks.
So I'm going to kind of summarize what's in the plan, and you all have a copy of the plan, and I'll just kind of summarize. So in the first section of the plan, we talk about phases and timelines. And we have 3 phases that we would like to follow. The first phase is the staff transition to campus. So before any students return to in-person learning, we will have our teachers and staff return in a multi-week staggered return to the school site. So all staff would return first. In phase 2, we have our pre-hybrid learning targeted support Wednesdays. So teachers would begin to work every Wednesday with our TK to 5 students in very small groups. And those are the kids who have the greatest need, our most at-risk students. So that would happen on Wednesdays. And then in phase 3, we transition to in-person instruction for our TK to 5. And that would be a staggered return for those students. So in the first week, we would have our TK, kinder, and first grade students come back. And then in the second week, we would have our second and third added to them. And in the third week, the 4th and 5th grade. And of course, this would only happen if the health conditions remain constant. If the health conditions move in the wrong direction in between time, we would stop what we were doing and return to virtual distance learning until the health conditions change. And for middle school, they will continue in distance learning until the return to person instruction is negotiated. And Brent, do you want to say anything about that at this moment?
Well, I think you mentioned it just in terms of the staggering back of students. We wanted to give the students and the staff an opportunity to get comfortable back at the school. Of course, our TK and kindergarten students who might have never been at school, we need to make sure they know how to navigate that. Also, the idea is if health conditions do change, that we need to be prepared to revert back to distance learning, and that's part of the plan as well. Thank you.
So the next focus of the plan is around the 4 pillars. And the 4 pillars come from the pandemic recovery framework. And we have to follow the 4 pillars. And so I'm going to discuss how we are adhering to the 4 pillars. So the first pillar is health and hygiene. And so with that, staff will use a daily screening tool. Families will need to screen students before they bring their students to school. And once students come to school, students will have their temperatures taken before entering the campus each day. Visitors will be required to have their temperatures taken and answer contact tracing questions. And all employees working on site will be COVID tested every 2 weeks. And we have begun to implement the COVID testing every 2 weeks. Any staff that is currently working on site is required to test every 2 weeks. So we have a section on when to close school sites. And so to be very candid, the decision to close an individual school to in-person instruction will be based on the number of cases in the school and the percentage of the teachers, students, and staff who are positive, who have tested positive for COVID-19. That decision will be made following consultation with the San Mateo County Health Department. Individual classes may also revert to distance learning when needed. So again, we will close school sites when we take a look at the percentage of the student staff who are tested positive, and the San Mateo County Health Department will let us know what to do. So along with health and hygiene, we provide a term, the definition of cleaning versus disinfecting. So cleaning means mopping, vacuuming, removing trash, cleaning doors and door jambs. Disinfecting means applying Oxivir 516, which is a CDC approved disinfectant for the COVID virus. And this will happen every day throughout each campus. And upon reopening, our schools have already been completely cleaned and disinfected. In addition to cleaning areas outlined, each classroom and workspace and bathroom will be cleaned using an electrostatic disinfectant sprayer to disinfect the workplace surfaces, chairs, tables, and to protect our staff and students and to reduce the risk of spread of infection. We also have provided air handling systems equipped with recommended filters that will run all day, and that maximizes the outside air. We will keep open classroom doors and windows at all times, and that is weather permitting during instruction. And we will use outside space on campus for instructional purposes, weather permitting as well. And we're also using portable HEPA filters and fans when appropriate to increase outdoor air ventilation. So we are definitely focused on the health and hygiene and making sure our students and staff the risk of infection is significantly reduced. Brent, anything you want to add?
Yeah, just that each individual school site in their plan, which is again in the appendix of the district plan, will be developing their scheduling for the daily cleaning, as well as when students in classes, the way students use the restroom, and it'll have to get cleaned after with the electrostatic disinfectant sprayer. All those individual site-based schedules will be in the site plans.
Thank you. And so one really important question that keeps coming up is, how often will things be cleaned? And so within the plan, we have this schedule. And so workspaces, which are classrooms and office, will be cleaned at the end of each day or after each use. Appliances, which are refrigerators, microwaves, coffee machines, will be cleaned daily. Electronic equipment, which would be copy machines, shared computer monitors, TVs, telephones, and keyboards, will be cleaned each day and at the end of each use or between use. And general use objects, which would be handles, lights, switches, sinks, and restrooms, will be cleaned at least 4 times a day. And our common areas, which would be cafeterias, libraries, conference rooms, gyms, and other common areas, would be cleaned at the end of each day and between each group or each use. So again, this matrix is in the plan. Brent?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, our maintenance and custodial staff have been doing an enormous amount of work to get their sites ready, get the plexiglass dividers up and signage available. So it's something that I know and I'm comfortable with the fact we're going to be prepared for the students to be in school.
So pillar 2 covers face coverings. And I want to give the definition of a face covering. A face covering is made of cloth, fabric, or other soft or permeable material without holes that covers only the nose and mouth and surrounding areas of the lower face. Masks with a valve device are not allowed. So we are providing disposable masks at each site for staff, students, and visitors should staff, student, or visitors forget theirs. And face shields alone are not suitable substitutes for masks. They can be used in conjunction with the mask, but they cannot be used by themselves. Anything else you want to add, Brent? All right. Pillar 3 focuses on physical distancing. And so in our classrooms, our desks are spaced 6 feet apart, and the teachers will have their own area as well that is 6 feet from the students. Restrooms will be assigned to cohorts of students, and face masks are required in the restrooms, and no more than 2 people at a time will be allowed in the restroom to ensure social distancing. Brent? Good. And pillar 4 focuses on limiting gatherings. So until further notice, all school-wide events will take place remotely. We will not have any after-school sports, and there is no on-campus volunteering. Lunch will be provided. So students who are in person will receive lunch and supper for the day of and breakfast for the next day to take home each day they are in attendance. And on Friday, the students will receive food for the weekend to take home. Those students in distance learning will receive their meals from the school that they are enrolled in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Friday from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. And siblings will need to pick up their meals from their respective schools, not from the school that is most convenient. So all students will still be provided with lunch. So for our next steps, we are submitting today for your approval of our plan. Once our plan is approved, then we will submit our plan to the San Mateo County Office of Education for their review and approval. And we will continue to monitor the San Mateo County health data. We will provide ongoing training and support to our teachers who will be returning to sites, and that is the focus will be for our hybrid teachers. And again, we will bring back our students in a phased approach as the conditions allow. And that is our return to in-person learning plan.
Sounds like you took care of everything.
We try.
No, very well done.
Is there any questions we can answer? Any clarifications right now? Yes, Mr. Crow.
I just had a couple maybe clarifications. So in the 3 phases of staff transition, and then there is pre-hybrid learning transition, and then in-person transitions for students from TK to 5 over certain weeks. Is there a reduced classroom size sort of rule? Yeah, rule that you're saying beyond just the 6 feet distancing. I know we mentioned the cohorts in the past. Have you guys, is that in this plan in particular, or is that more?
So the plan is still the schedule to be AB days, where students would come on Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday, with Wednesday being the re-engagement for it. So it's only going to be half of the class at a time as we transition in. So there are classes though that would, because of the change in enrollment with so many students in the virtual classes actually back on those 4 or 5 days a week because they're an enrollment of 14. So, but most of it's going to be half of the class per day.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. And then I have one more question. It was regarding the cleaning schedule. If different things have multiple cleanings either throughout the day or every day or so, does that change within phases, or is that pretty much a structure that you guys are having in place?
No, the structure that's going to be in place. I mean, once folks are coming regularly and students are coming regularly, even when it's being staggered, that schedule will be in place. Currently, quite a few staff come and work on campus in their classrooms, so they're getting their classrooms cleaned.
Okay.
Also, the way, because lunch is going to be served in a grab and go fashion. Recess is essentially you're going to go outside for a few minutes and come back in. The trash cleanup, all those kind of things that take away from a custodian's time, they're going to be now absorbed by doing some of the more specific type of cleaning outline. Going to the restroom too, it's going to have to be like my class is going to the bathroom time. They do their thing and then they use the sprayer. So it's those plans have been in place in schools because of the nature of the span of years of building in our district. Schools like Policita that are newer and Susan B. Anthony are just going to have a different plan in place than a school like Thomas Edison. That's all outside, let's say. And those are all included in the appendix in the site plans.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I just want to add. So guidance for schools changes on a regular basis and gets improved. The board needs to understand that when new guidance from, let's say, the California Department of Public Health comes out, or the pandemic recovery framework, we will adapt the plan to that, and we may not come back to the board for reapproval just because there's no discretion in implementing those recommendations. We just have to do them. I don't think nor anticipate that we will be changing anything where we have discretion. But if we do, then we would come back to the board for approval of an addendum. Like if we decide for some reason that we like an A-B day better than morning is the A cohort and afternoon is the B cohort. If we decide to move in that direction and we feel like we can take care of the cleaning that needs to happen in between, and it seems like that's where we want to move and families want to move and staff, then we would come back to the board for an approval of that shift, because that's a discretionary choice. But for now, we're going to stay with the board approved plan of an A day and a B day.
Any other questions that we field for you? And if I could put out there to all the people that took the time to give input, I mean, we spent hours and hours meeting, and for all the teachers and staff that are doing Zoom all day, to come to a meeting at the end of the day for another hour and a half, I know is really hard. So everybody showed up, and I think that says a lot for it. And so.
Yeah, and I would like to appreciate Mr. Valenti and Dr. Joyner for heading up and facilitating those meetings. I think we do not have any speaker cards tonight, and that doesn't mean that families and staff are not interested in this topic, but that they have given their input along the way, and they have been heard, and we have had representatives from every school site come to our big group meetings, and so that. People are heavily interested in this, but they have had opportunity to give input and feedback along the way. So that's a testament that we don't have lots of speaker cards. I was expecting at least some, because not everybody got give their feedback in or didn't get it in at the right time. But I think folks who are interested were able to do so.
And can I also say, once the plan is approved, we are going to post it on our website, and we are having it translated into the major languages. And so we'll post that on the website as well. And we did announce that in the community meeting, but once we post it, we'll send out an email to the community to let everyone know.
And as the site-based plans get refined, those will be reconnected to the link. So it'll be alive, which is what you want with the document like this. You don't want to put it on the bookshelf. All right, then.
Well, I actually do have a question. Apologies. And this may have already been covered, but I want to make sure that I understand it correctly. So with regards to the cohorts that we're having, I know that there are some families that have children in multiple different schools. And so how are we planning to deal with that in terms of them going either on the same days, whether that be, Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, with the different schools and locations.
Yeah, so that's one of the aspects that hasn't been decided, because we know we have at least a lead time of 4 to 6 weeks before we need to implement. But we do have the capacity to identify families who live at the same address. And that's how we would do it, because sometimes it's not just families with the same last name or siblings, but you have multiple families who may go to a variety of schools. And so we would attempt by address, to get them on the same day of attendance, so that it works out for households. There's all, and we would put out the assigned, potential assigned dates in advance. So sometimes we don't know the connections that families have outside of their household. Child A may be picked up by child B's family, and they're essentially a pod, but they got assigned different days. And so there's an opportunity for families to say, hey, my child gets picked up by this family and they're on a different days, or we don't care which day. Can you just put us on the same day so that we could work out the school drop off and pick up together? So there will be an opportunity for, there's an initial sort of, here's what we think is the draft of assignment. And then there's the opportunity for families to discuss with their school principal if they need to make a change. And sometimes that's discussing with 2 school principals, because the kids may not be going to the same school, yet they're still a pod or household.
Thank you. That was a good question, because that's one of the new logistical things that never had to be considered really in the past. So, but sites I know are already starting their, at least on their individual sites, looking at the best way to divide up classes. Again, you can't just split it down the middle. You just can't do alphabetical. It's, it's like any class, it's got to be balanced. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or comments?
Are we off that item on the next one?
What was that?
Okay, what item are we still on? 14?
Yeah, we're still on the reopening plan. I think Miss Manio was asking if there was any more comments or discussion before asking for a motion.
No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the plan.
The motion, we approve the plan as presented.
Second.
There's a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Plan is approved unanimously. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for the time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, I know there was a lot of work that was put into that. So thank you all for the hard work that was put into that. Now we are finally on 14A, Board Study Session, CSBA 2020 AEC. And I know that Trustee Laina Anawai was supposed to report, but she is not here. So we will have Board Member Andrea Jordan present.
Awesome. So obviously that was my first education meeting, and so it was a lot of information gathering, and I think I'm still kind of sifting through a lot of that. I'm still learning. So one thing that stood out to me, and I think I'm sure most of the trustees probably feel this way, especially when you first join the board. One thing that stood out to me in the conversations that I got from CSBA was mostly around how I'm pivoting from basically being someone that's campaigning to be on the board to now really focusing on joining a team, and really figuring out how to navigate joining a team that's already been in place, that already has a rhythm, and kind of learning how to enter that and become a part of the team, and not, someone that has their own agenda based on what I was campaigning for. And so that's something that I am learning and trying to take into account. And so you'll probably see majority of the meetings for the first 6 months, I'm probably just going to be quiet, mostly listening, kind of taking in information, asking questions here or there until I get comfortable enough to really truly add value to the board. So that was one thing that I think really stood out for me, and it is something that I'm going to be working on within the next couple of months to kind of ramp me up for what's ahead. And obviously joining during a pandemic, it came up multiple times. I think all of us are just trying to figure out how to navigate these times. And so, one thing that came up as well during some of the sessions that I went to was this conversation around equity versus equality, and really noting that they're not the same, and really truly trying to educate ourselves on what the difference is. And I know it showed up in the plan that we have, not only for trying to reduce the number of English learners that we're having that's showing up for Latinx and our Hispanic student population. And so, again, equity and equality not being the same, and me really kind of educating myself on how I can be an advocate for the understanding of the difference, and telling others, whether that be teachers and parents and the community at large, about what that truly means. The other thing that came up, and again, like I said, it was total information dumping for me, so I'm just kind of putting a lot of things out there, was something that we already talked about, which is the new normal for space utilization, and how planning and technology in our facilities and working with our leaders to ensure that there are education plans and facility master plans and classroom utilization studies, on how we're going to move forward as we navigate through COVID, and until we get vaccination and things go to somewhat a normal state. And so it was really interesting to me to see that obviously not only our district is going through this, in terms of really trying to figure out what to do and who's doing it right. I mean, honestly, all of us are just trying to figure it out together. And so what came out of that is really understanding that we need to be leaning on other districts from what they're doing, leaning on other board members, really networking to figure out how we can all collaborate together to come up with the best possible plans for our districts, regardless of where we're located. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. And obviously, I think as we navigate through more of these conversations, I attend more meetings, I'm sure I'll hopefully be able to add a little bit more value based on what I'm learning and from what I'm listening.
Thank you, Trustee Jordan. I appreciate your feedback and your insight on your experience. And for me, it was not that long ago where I joined my first AEC. So I know the exact feelings that you were going through in terms of, and I'm sure it was even more for virtual, but it's just a feeling of overwhelming information and a lot to absorb. So I appreciate your experience. If anybody has nothing else to say to Trustee Jordan about her experience with the annual education conference, we'll move forward to item 15.
Well, I would like to say I'm happy that she was able to participate, and because while you're new at it, you're gonna be great at it, okay? Because you're gonna share with whatever people have, and I've been through the same thing, but I've had many more years of it. So I welcome that you go and you study at these areas. And if I can be of any help, you can call me. But what I want to leave some of my comments for right now if I may do so, is that or should I wait until this is all complete and then I can start?
Yeah, there's a portion here coming up where board members can make their comments toward
Okay,
the end. So
I'll save it for
you can
that.
hold. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay. No other discussion? Okay. So then we'll move forward to, I'm sorry, Trustee Brizuela?
No,
No?
I'm nodding with
Oh.
you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So then we'll move forward with item 15, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. Are there any speaker cards that were turned in?
There are no speaker cards tonight on this item.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, then we shall move on to 16. Governance team member comments, reports, board meeting reflection. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first. Okay. So
Okay.
reflecting on the meeting, I think the meeting went very well. I like the questions that are being asked. I thank the administration for giving us all the input and information that we need. And I'm really very proud of our board right now. And I think that we have all the board members are very much interested in doing what we can to make our district the best. And we are, of course, we already are there, but to continue. So there's a couple of things I wanted to say at this time, and I wanted to ask Bernie to be sure or to follow up with us about the crossing guards. I know the county helped us out with paying for it, and before it comes upon us again, could we have those discussions again and find out if we have their help again? Silence.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look into it. We do know that for sure, whatever the county was going to contribute, they didn't have to this year.
Yeah.
So at least those funds might be available for another year. Yeah, I will look into the crossing guard situation as we get ready to open up and report to the board.
Exactly. I just want to make sure we don't lose out on that.
No, and we're
Yeah.
also going to be bringing the board more information on the Safe Routes to School program as well.
Oh, good. Thank you. So those are the most important things right now that I don't want us to forget it, because before you know it, the children will be coming back. I want to wait for the last minute. Other than that, I think I can probably wait on other items. Oh, I'm supposed to say how I already said that the meeting went great, and I think we're doing a great job. And I'm looking forward to us getting together with CSBA at our meeting, and how that kind of helps us work better together, and especially when we're bringing new board members on, and to let them know that we're a team. Okay?
Okay. Trustee Koo, would you like to go?
Not much. Just want to wish everybody a great rest of the school year. I think the meeting went well. Great job, President Manio. Yeah, that's mostly it. Also, I just wanted to mention, I just want to wish an early happy birthday to our superintendent. At the end of his birthday next week, so I just want to wish him a happy birthday.
Thank you.
What day?
The 19th.
I didn't even know that, but
And it is Ms. Varai's birthday tomorrow, so we should say happy birthday to her as well.
got it.
Oh, okay.
Lots of Aquarius in the house. Okay.
Well, don't forget St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, we won't forget that one, of course. There's 2 birthdays on that day we need to remember.
I know. I just want to say to everybody, I hope that everyone had a nice. The reason I'm speaking slowly is I have a bat. Every time I talk, I'm hearing myself say it again. I got two mics on. But anyway, what I really wanted to say was that thank everybody for all that you're doing during this very strange time. And I hope that everybody will be safe and take care of yourselves. And don't be too anxious to go out while they're telling us to stay close to home. We'd like everyone to be safe, healthy, and get to see all of you again.
Thank you, Trustee Brizuela. Trustee Jordan, would you like to say anything at this time?
Yeah, so happy birthday to both of you. I would break out in song, but I'll spare everyone the terrible singing. But I echo everyone's sentiments. The meeting went really well. Again, I'm still learning, and next time I'll make sure not to read the wrong agenda item when I'm doing a motion. Obviously, total learning curve. I probably need double screen so I can have video on this side and the agenda on the other side, so I'm seeing everything clearly. But I'm really excited to learn from everyone and have the meeting, as Trustee Brizuela said, with CSBA. I really am looking forward to fully, truly being a part of the family of this board and learning and growing as a team together to do what's best for our community. And then obviously to our teachers, staff, administration, just thank you so much for all that you are doing. Just everything that you've done in terms of pivoting during this pandemic, teaching on Zoom, helping our most neediest children, in person, because obviously it's just hard for everyone at this time. And so I just want to say, we know that you're doing a good job, and we're with you, and we're going to get through this together. So continue to be strong, and we're going to get through this.
Yes, those are great words, Trustee Jordan. I completely agree. I want to thank you all of you on this meeting, all of our staff and teachers and parents. Thank you for your tremendous help with dealing with this situation, and your diligence, all of the hard work, all of the late nights and the early mornings, and all the major efforts that we're taking to continue to keep on keeping on. And the hard work does not go unnoticed, and I hope you all do as well. Continue to be safe and take good care of yourselves. I don't know if this is the forum for this, but I do want to share a personal announcement. I was appointed the Daly City's Small Business Commissioner, and we have our first meeting on February 11th. So I know a lot of you either know somebody with a small business in Daly City or is affected by one, and help me be the champion to continue to drive policies that are friendly for our people, and of course wherever it intersects and interlines and aligns with our school district as well. So with that, nothing else, I'm going to take this and, oh my goodness, adjourn our meeting at 8:30 p.m.
Yay! Whoa! Good job.
Thank you all.
Thank you all very much. Have a great night.
Night.
Thank you. You
Have a good
too.
evening.